Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girls podcast with your host, Jennifer Loading.
And Brianna Dreles. And together we are the Starter Girls.
Where extraordinary decisions produce extraordinary results. These are our friends, these are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photographer of Glad Models Agency. If you are here in the Dallas or surrounding area and looking for some photography work, check out Walt Mills. You can learn more about him and his work at photosbywalt.com.
And head on over to startergirls.com because we have a free gift for you. We want to keep in touch outside of this podcast and also help you up-level those decision-making skills. So head over there right now at startergirls.com and let's keep in touch today.
That's right. All right. Today's a great day to be brave. You might as well start now. You have the power to change your circumstances any day you decide. Let today be that day. Rise up, be amazing, be you, do you.
Here we go.
Yes.
We have someone in the studio today.
We do. And we are super excited about it. We're always excited when we have somebody come in the studio because it's so much fun when we have people here, isn't it? Way better.
It is. And we have to figure out, okay, are we all in the shot? There's 3 chairs. It's a big table. I don't know. Yeah. 3 microphones.
I think we got it, though. Chris does pretty good. He gets us all in there. We got
Chris
it.
is always taking care of us.
All right. So let's tell our listeners real quick a little bit about Ron here because he's amazing. So Ron Campbell was born in South Africa into a violent, abusive family. The second he was old enough, he enlisted in the Navy, taking along the violent nature he had inherited, and there it was weaponized. A decade later, he left with sharply honed killing skills, battle scars, and PTSD. Finally, he hit bottom, but the fighter in Ron wasn't content to roll over and die. Somehow, I'm definitely not seeing that. He fought for years to learn how to rebuild his life. He discovered how to change his thinking and correct the destructive elements in his past, to dramatically change his present, to throw open amazing doors to his future. He learned to see, understand, and speak to himself differently than he had ever imagined possible. He is the creator, and I'm super excited about this. We're going to talk about it because he did not have his book out when I met him, but he created a powerful step-by-step plan called the Mindshift. And so we are super excited to welcome you here, Ron.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
It's super excited to be here. We're excited.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, so we're going to dive into this.
Let's go.
We're going to dive into this. So I want you to tell us a little bit because you've got just when we met, we had there was a lot going on, a lot of conversation there we unpacked. And I'm like, this guy's just got a story. And I always say, we don't wake up and we're just right where we are. There's this transformation that we have to go through. So kind of walk us through this. How did this come about, this mind shift?
Well, having served for 12 years in the South African Special Forces in active combat in 4 different theaters, and then 5 years in Israel, in Beirut, West Bank, Golden Heights with the Israeli military, I sort of inherited some real terrible dysfunction, but the dysfunction didn't start there. It started in my childhood. So sometimes you become indoctrinated and programmed in specific behaviors that follow you through the rest of your life. And so when I was finished with my military training, once I came out of that environment, while you're in that environment and you're there with your buddies and all that sort of stuff, you're okay. Because you all understand each other, the modalities are the same. When you come out and you come back into civilian life, and you don't have the regimented lifestyle, you don't have the things you need to do, so your whole lifestyle changes, and you're suddenly shocked by and then you find yourself responding to stimuli that you never responded, like sounds, noise, people. I mean, my greatest frustration was people. I mean, I don't know how many times I was driving on a bus one day, and the guy behind me lit up a cigarette, and I said, "Can you turn that cigarette?" And he said, "No." So I grabbed him, I threw him right through the back window of the bus. How did that happen? Well, I don't know. But the minute he said no, I was just done. That was that response from PTSD. And so we today find at the moment in the USA, especially because of Iraq and Afghanistan, that there's an average of 23 guys killing themselves every day.
Wow.
Because what happens with PTSD, it not only affects the way you think and understand, but it affects your hearing, your sight, all your stimuli is affected by it. It's a real psychological problem. When I talk to people about it, I say to where it comes, we need to understand the brain. The brain itself is like the hardware. The software is your mind and your conscience. So what happens is your mind and your conscience is the software, and that stuff gets corrupted. And then your thought processes, your behavioral patterns, everything is affected. So I got to a place where it was so bad that I had to sit down because I was responding violently to everything around me. And so it got so bad that friends of mine said, "Dude, you need to do something." I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do. I mean, the alcohol wasn't helping, the tablets, the medication wasn't helping. I mean, I'd sat down many times, put a gun in my mouth and was going to pull the trigger because the torment was so intense. I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't date girls because they'd freak out. Dude, what's wrong with this guy? There's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
Because you're broken, basically. And so friends of mine said, man, I said, look, you need to do something. So what I did, and I've never studied psychology. I've never had been psychoanalyzed, excepting once, but I'll talk about that later on. if you want to know more about that, I'll tell you later. It was a very terrifying experience for the person that was psychoanalyzing me. But however, so I've never studied psychology, but I sat down one day and I just started to research and study and read, and I started to find out how the mind works. Then I was watching this movie by Jason Bourne called Bourne Identity. And in that movie, he was a normal Marine, and what they did, they waterboarded him, which brought him into a situation called a state of heightened emotion. And when they did that, they told him to kill somebody. The minute he did that, his conscience was seared and he became a machine. So when you're in heightened emotion, stimuli and things that are going around about you affect you. That's why when you listen to television advertising, right, and you're watching a movie and it's 50 decibels, and when they come to you with the advertisement, it's at 80 decibels, because it puts you in a heightened state of emotion, and so it hardwires that thought in your head. So suddenly you're laying in bed one day and said, I need a McDonald's hamburger. Where did that come from? That was programmed into.
Yeah.
So those things that happen, like when you see a couple go through a breakup and they're crying and they're over heightened emotion, make vows, and before you know where they live by those, because those are the program railway tracks that you live on. Once you make a vow, once you make that thing hardwired into your subconscious mind, you are unable to do anything against that because you'll get pushback.
Right.
So this whole book, this whole concept that I put together is based on understanding how programming works, how indoctrination works. And to start off, and I know I'm waffling quite a bit.
No, you're fine. You're fine. This is good.
To start off, when I went back to my childhood, that's where the problem began. My dad used to waterboard me. He used to hang me in a bag. My dad set me on fire multiple times. My dad was an alcoholic. And so basically what it did, it brought me to this place of, because don't forget, the first 7 years of your life, your brain's still plasticized, so you're still learning. And what happens is you learn more by visual and by hearing, not really so much by anything else. So whatever you see in the performance of your parents, that stuff hardwires into you. But you also have to understand that when you're born, even though you have your mother and father's RNA and DNA, you're an individual. You have your own personality, you have your own gift set, your own skill set, your own nature. But because you've been trained in that environment, you take on those components and you develop what I call an alien nature. It's a psychology that's outside of who you really are. That's the ground rule. That's the beginning. Then you go to school. Then you go to a religious environment. Then you got your religion or your city environment, because don't forget you're affected by regions, nationally, your national narrative. So you got all this, and then of course you go in the military, that adds on top of that. So you've got 7 or 8 levels of programming that actually bring you into a place that has nothing to do with who you really are.
Yeah.
So you can see when you watch road rage, you can see what happens. It's a person's been programmed into being impatient. The psychology they're operating is violence, bullying. All these things come out of the program that people receive. So I sat down and I went through this process of working out every facet of how you receive things, how you understand things, how your nature works. And really, my real desire as a young boy was to be a surgeon. I always wanted to be a doctor. I dreamt surgery. I dreamt anatomy. But because of my upbringing and because of the violent behavior of my father, my life was disrupted. And I was set on a path that I could not stop. And once I got involved in the path, the only way to survive was to get more proficient and more excellent in your dysfunction. And that's what you find with people who are addicted to stuff. They get more and deeper into it until they hit rock bottom. When I hit rock bottom, that's when I made the decision. And this has been a process, a journey for the last 20 years.
Yeah, imagine.
And there's things that are added to me all the time that I remember, like I think of things like a cognitive distortion. you see people and they talk to you and you think to yourself, in your head you're saying, what the hell are you thinking? Am I allowed to say that word here?
You're fine. Yes. And I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what cognitive
because you look at a person and you think, where do you get this information from? And especially today in our culture. I mean, I'm looking at people and they're educated, clever people, and they're talking. I'm thinking to myself, dude, you can't seriously believe what you're saying now.
Right.
And that's what we suffer with. And you know why? Because the narrative we're receiving from media, from stimuli around. I mean, you drive down I-35, all the billboards as you drive down the road. I mean, all that stuff comes in. We got reticular activated systems that are a firewall to the brain. And those things sometimes we can violate, and stuff comes through that you don't need in your life. So this has been a journey of absolute craziness, but it's been the most fulfilling, rewarding thing, because after all these years, I found myself.
I love it. It's like a cathartic piece of work.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the best when you go through. I mean, your story is, like I said, we talked out of here, obviously, and so he's shared a lot of stuff, and so it's a remarkable story. But I think it's so amazing when people make that trajectory shift, like they find themselves in the process. And you're right, like when you're in that dysfunction, you don't really know anything different than the dysfunction that you know. And so, yes, whatever you learn very early on is what you continue to keep playing out and keep playing out until you break that cycle and do something different. And so I think this is so awesome. So this program, you have a book, and is there like a digital program that goes with this too?
Yeah, there's an online course that is, it has almost 50 videos. It's a 12-week process.
Okay.
The first part is you release your baggage. You go through and you sit down and you work at exactly what baggage you got.
Yeah.
The key is you can't bring something new in until you throw the old out.
100%. Yeah.
So, and then of course we work towards your potential. Then we find your power. And then you find actually who you are. And I walk them through a process of it online. I teach them, educate them. What I do is I don't sell my program.
Yeah.
Why I don't sell my programs? Because I don't just want anybody to do it. I want a person that is really committed to transform their life, and I will work with them.
Yeah.
I will walk with them for the 12-week period.
Yeah.
And then see the transformation take place. Because if you just throw it out there, people
right.
and they lose
They're not
interest.
committed. Yeah, they're not committed.
I don't want people involved in my program at all that have not committed themselves to transformation.
Yeah.
So yes, there's an online platform, and it's mindshiftssystem.com.
I love it.
And that's where it is.
Who is this for? Who are your target people that are using this?
This is really specific. This one is specifically for first responders, veterans,
Awesome.
ex-military people, people that have people that have gone through divorce,
Yeah.
Children. You know, anybody that's suffered any traumatic event that is dealing with PTSD. Because look, any traumatic event that you go through creates a heightened emotion and creates within you a script of I'm not going to let that happen to me again.
Right.
So that becomes hardwired, and before you know where you are functioning in that script. Like I met a lady the other day that had gone through 2 divorces. She said, I'm never dating again.
Yeah.
I said, do you realize what you've done? You have just kiboshed yourself.
Yeah.
You know why? Because you've experienced pain. And the problem is, anytime you go in a relationship, that pain is going to come. You have to go back and you have to deal with what the pain is. You have to bring it out, expose it, uncover it. And I know for a lot of people that's vulnerability, but this program helps people like veterans. I must have worked with about 2,000 veterans so far.
It's awesome. Yeah.
You know, and now especially with COVID, all these doctors and nurses and police officers and firemen. I mean, look at what's happened lately in Washington, where the policemen are killing themselves.
Yeah.
They're shooting themselves.
Right.
I mean, what brings you to that point? Desperation. Instead of killing yourself, let's get you some help.
Yeah.
Now listen, I have to make a disclaimer here. I'm not a psychologist. I have never studied psychology.
Right.
Never, ever. As a matter of fact, I have to, can I tell you a story?
Tell us a story, Ron. Go for it. He's got lots of good stories. Go for it, Ron.
So I'm on a plane one day in business class, and this lady sits next to me, and she's a well-dressed, well-groomed, well-coiffed woman. She says, so what do you do? So I said, well, I'm a consultant. So she said, oh, okay. So who do you consult? I said, well, I consult Congress. She went, oh, like that.
You hearing this?
And I said to her, so what do you do? She said, well, I am the president of the psychological whatever it is of the USA. I said, oh, okay. So I was talking to her about this concept.
Yeah.
And she said, well, what's your degree? What's your qualification? I said, well, I'm a pharmacist. So she looked at me and she said, well, that doesn't really qualify you to do that. I said, well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a place where you've had to scrape somebody's brain matter and bone fragments out of your body? No. Have you ever had to pick up somebody's limbs, put them in a bag so they can go home to their parents? No. I said, have you ever had to pack somebody's guts back into their stomach while they're screaming and crying for their mother? No. I said, so what you're telling me is you're not qualified to do what I do. You may be qualified book-wise, and Freud may help your people, but Freud can never help the people that I'm helping, because I've been there. I've walked the walk. And she looked at me and says, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I said, no, I'm not offended. I said, I just want you to clarify something. Education doesn't mean to say that you're disqualified. I said, experience sometimes trumps education.
Yep.
You know, and that's the key.
It's so good.
I know. If you sit with
It's
him
so
long enough,
important.
he's gonna tell you more stories.
People have to
This
understand
was my
that.
conversation when I met him. Like, it kept unfolding. Like, there was more.
God.
I'm like, first I mean, he's telling me about this. Then he tells me about the con. Then there's more. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of stuff there to unpack. A lot.
Well, I had someone tell
Yes.
me, I had brought on a speaker for one of my events, and I had someone tell me, well, I was, you said it was an expert, and I was expecting an expert. And in her mind, an expert is 10 plus years in the field, like whatever, however she defines expert. And I just have a completely different mindset about that, and on expertise and experience and all of that. So yeah, it was a little bit revealing for me, because I was like, oh, that's interesting. I do need to keep that in mind, but at the end of the day, it's okay that we disagree on this.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will say, exactly what you just talked about.
Yeah.
How are you qualified to talk on that? Or, and
I've soaked up enough blood
interesting.
to talk about it.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, when you talk about like coaches, the term coaches, I mean, there's a stigma behind it, because there's so many coaches out there. They go, oh, I go get a coaching certification and now I'm going to be a coach. And so, and we've had them on the show. We've had them throughout the whole process of this. And I'm very particular about the people that I do bring on. I'm not looking for their criteria. I'm looking for their story. I want to know their story, because to me, that speaks way more volumes than that check mark you have behind your title.
That's true.
I mean, you can go to school when you walk out and you have a master's in something, but have you really ever gone anything that puts you through a life lesson that you had to really buckle down to your knees and like come to Jesus moment? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? And so to me, that weighs tons heavier than any credential. But he's got stuff behind him too. Maybe not the psychology part. He's got a lot of stuff going on. I think this is impressive.
This is amazing.
And I love that this is geared for people that are in that, like our first responders right now, and all those people that are really having to go through that, because they're going through so much stuff right now. Really know, are they doing the right thing? Are they not? And yeah.
Well, the tragedy, what happened to me is in 1995, I was blown up in a landmine. And
wow.
I had traumatic brain injury. And in the battlefield, when I was casevaced out into the MASH unit, the doctor that took care of me, he said there wasn't a place in my body that wasn't bleeding.
Wow.
And so for 6 weeks, I was in a coma, and my head was the size of a melon. I had to learn, after that, to talk again. I had to learn to walk. I had to learn cognitive behavior skills and all those kind of things in the process. And then I re-qualified for special forces after that, after being blown up. So, you carry those things in your body. I call them organ memories and muscle memories. And so sometimes people don't understand, like if you've gone through a traumatic event, you can walk in a place and you can get a fragrance can trigger you, and it'll throw you right back into that circumstance that you faced way back when. Another story, okay?
Go. It's good.
So
Chris likes the stories, I think. Chris, you liking the stories?
So
Are we good?
This is a military story. So my cousin and I, we were both in the special unit together. We were called the Night Stalkers. And we were doing a mission into Mozambique. And we were never normally separated in teams. We always stayed together, but he was separated in a different team. And that night he got killed. And so because I was the older of the cousins, my aunt had actually told me, take care of of Ian, and take care of, make sure he's okay, and bring him home to make sure he's safe. Well, that night he got killed. And of course the helicopter only had enough place for the team, didn't have enough place. So what I did is I basically carried his body back.
Wow.
For 4 days while I was being pursued by the enemy. And when I got to the funeral, and you have to understand, after 4 days, our body doesn't smell good.
No. Yeah.
So you have that smell that eventually, in the funeral process, my aunt came to me. She said, "I trusted you to take care of him, and I'm holding you responsible for his life being lost, and you're gonna have to pay." So my whole life, until I started to write this book a year and a half ago, and I was sitting writing this book, and I just suddenly burst into tears, and it was a very traumatic event. I realized that I had a dream that I was chained to a gravestone, and his name was on the gravestone. And I'm sorry.
All right, it's all good, Ron.
And while I was writing this book, I realized that I've been carrying this thing for 40 years. That I'm responsible for his death, and I've been doing everything in my life to pay the price for his lost life. You know how difficult that is to dismantle?
Yeah, I can't imagine, yeah.
And you know, there are people out there that are suffering, their children have died. Death is a very traumatic experience for a lot of people, especially during COVID. So many people have been separated from family.
Yeah.
And so I seem to find myself working a lot with guys that have had traumatic death experiences with family members, that children have been taken beforehand, or parents have been taken beforehand, and so on. So one of the things I found with this thing, it helped me when I had that experience, that catharsis, it helped me understand that I don't have the keys to hell, death, and the grave. I don't have keys to life and death.
Right.
So I managed to dismantle that concept of the responsibility and the guilt that I carried for so many years. And I carried it without really realizing I carried it, but it affected my psychology because I was driven. I couldn't rest. I was a guy that sleeps 2 or 3, 4 hours a night. I couldn't find my peace. I was never peaceful or happy, but it was always going. And once I dealt with that thing, it took me about a month to really dismantle and break that philosophy that I inherited from just a word that somebody spoke to me.
Yeah.
I mean, words can be powerful, but words can be very destructive. And so what I try and encourage people is always watch your words that you say to people, especially when you're in anger. You know, words in anger, they penetrate. Words are very powerful. And we can actually sometimes poison a person's future by saying things to them that can just absolutely destroy them as a person.
I agree.
And so anyway, I just want to share that because I felt that there was a thing that I really battled with that actually, I mean, many times traumatized me when I woke up at night in a sweat wondering why I'm feeling this way. And it was because somebody placed a burden on me that wasn't mine to carry.
Wasn't yours to carry, no doubt. Wow.
And you were young too, so it just took you.
Yeah.
It took you a long time to understand that weight.
Took me, 40 years.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
So.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that.
No, it's good. No, this is good because I think there are so many people that, I mean, and you said some things, even like how it affects the subconscious, because even though you're driving and you're high functioning, it's still causing these behaviors and these things are manifesting underneath and that's one of the things that I talked about, like when, and my story obviously completely different than yours, but and nowhere near yours, but when I was going through like my crisis, I recognized for me personally that I had this pattern of repeated behavior, and it really stemmed from when I was younger, and it continued to play out and manifest in many different ways. And so even though this was a particular health crisis, and the moment for me when I recognized that was when I went into this office, and it was I was going to like a holistic practitioner at this point because I'd given up on medicine. So I go into this practitioner's office. I talk about this in my book. Yes. He says to me, "What were you doing at the time this happened?" And I got mad. I got like I recoiled back and said, wait a minute. I did not cause this. I had nothing to do with this. My life was fine. I was perfect. Like somebody inflicted something on me. But then fast forward. So this is 2015-ish. The book comes out in 2019. As I'm writing it, I'm going through this process. And by this point, I'm starting to like discover myself and how the decisions I was making were having an impact. And that's when I really had this light bulb moment go off. And I'm like, okay, what was happening at the time that this went on? And I could go back and think of all these things that were going on in my life that were actually contributing to all of this crisis. Yeah. And so I think there's something powerful in that, in the finding yourself. And it sucks that we have to go through those things, but it is those words and it is those things that we learn that play out over and over and over until we free ourselves from that. and take it's like you take that weight off your back. You know, you're no longer like, I look at things and say, you know, I'm not responsible for the things that people did to me. I'm responsible now for how I respond to them and how I go forward with my life. That is my decision and my choice.
It's beautiful.
And I tell my kids that every time they've had simple, very easy lives. But when they like to remind me how mean, you know, I'm like, listen, you can't go around blaming your parents for the rest of your life, for your life. You at some point have to take accountability for the decisions you make.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to serve you well 20 years from now.
That's
when
right.
you know, you keep saying your mom did or your dad just said the wrong thing to you. You know.
Yeah.
Well, learning how to also deal with those triggers too, as you were saying. Like, I love when you mentioned the scent, because I always tell people there's scents. You know, I have some really great memories of eucalyptus, because growing up and visiting my grandparents in San Diego,
Smell it.
they lived in Eucalyptus Hills. So on my first week at college, I ended up going to school in Southern California. I smelled the eucalyptus, but I didn't know what it was. And it took me weeks to realize how I remembered that scent and how, and it was a great thing. But then I've had scents, maybe like old boyfriends and the cologne that they wore. And I'm like, oh,
there's that memory.
I smell it. Yeah.
But we do
and it triggers
that.
me.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why you can see the magnitude of something like this, because we get it on the little things. Like you're sitting in the car and you hear a song and you're like, oh, that bad feeling. Oh, that reminds me of so-and-so. I don't like that person.
Or that night when that happened.
Exactly.
Or,
Exactly. And we remember the things that are, we don't always remember the positive things. We remember the extremely negative things that impacted us. So
I just want to tell you the eucalyptus thing. I think 2 million koala bears would agree with you. Because they live in eucalyptus trees and they love eucalyptus.
I have eucalyptus oil.
I think it's like, it's like calming for them.
It is. It is. And they actually get drunk on it.
Yes, they get like
This
the
is so
eucalyptus
funny.
high, right?
But you know, you're talking about sounds. You know, one thing that I found too, which has been a great healing for me, music.
Yes.
Now, I like to listen to music that I can understand the lyrics, and it moves me. So I do a lot. I listen to a lot of Italian music.
Interesting.
I love guys like Andrea Bocelli. I love like Eros
She's going to be
Ramazzotti.
speaking.
Romanza.
You're speaking her
Romanza,
language.
yeah. Because to me, music has been a great part of my healing. And you know, I almost see like musicians almost like prophets out there. You know, they come up with these lyrics and they write these songs and they speak this truth, and then you listen to it in music, and what it does is washes over you. And I mean, most of the times when I write, I have music on in the background. Because what I find that music does, it lifts my spirit. Because, you know, we are created to be worshippers.
Right.
You know, that we have a natural ability in us to be worshippers. And a lot of people worship different things, but we have this thing built in us to worship. And sound, music, is the thing that elevates your spirit. It brings you to a new place. I found a great amount of healing in music. I mean, even Journey, just like Journey. I mean, most guys listen, they're rocking, drinking. I listen to Journey, it's like, oh man, this is awesome.
Yes. So good.
It's like I listen to Sarah Brightman and I don't know how we got on this music thing. But
Hey, it's all good. Well, I was gonna agree with you because when I'm stressed, I put music on. Like I put it when, and even as a kid, I remember like I could tell these crazy stories. Like when we were kids, we would go do things, and my parents would always have like, I don't want to say too much on here, but they'd always have these like little tiffs, and so I would have to sing. Like I'd have to sing to work myself through it, and so as I've grown up, like every time when I get on an airplane, I don't like to fly. I have to put my headphones in my music. Like I have to distract myself with music.
Absolutely, and that's what I found. So for me, a great help has been music. And you know, the wonderful thing is, when I was speaking earlier on, I was speaking about words, how words can impact people. And so sometimes when you hear something musically with the right frequency, it just sort of does something in your soul. It actually settles something.
Yeah.
So I found that music for me has been a great help. It's been a catharsis. Like I like to listen to certain kinds of music. I don't like violent, aggressive. I like peaceful, passionate, beautiful, harmonizing, calming, romantic. I love romantic music.
Okay, awesome.
I love romantic music, and I love to listen to somebody explain to me in song what it is to be in love. The reason why I do that is because I never loved myself.
Yeah.
And as a young boy, I was never loved.
Yeah.
And so the bottom line is I really battled with love. I really battled for people to love me and for me to love myself. So when you don't have these things in yourself, you can't expect to give them and you can't expect to receive them. And so music has really helped me develop an understanding of love, what love is, how you can lay yourself down for something so beautiful. Song is just the most powerful. And like you said, you're a singer, right?
I am.
Okay, so we're going to belt out a song for us quickly.
She sings a lot on here. She and Chris both do from
Oh, they
time
do?
to time. Yes, they do. I'm surprised we haven't done any singing, and we were talking about singers on the last one, and nobody was singing.
I was literally thinking, so I'm releasing an original song probably towards the end of this year, and I was literally thinking, when that comes out, I'm sending it to you because I think you'll enjoy it. I think
I'd
you're gonna
love
like
to
it.
It's gonna be awesome.
I love to hear music. To me is beautiful.
So, Ron, what are you working on right now? What's coming up? What do you got going on right now?
I'm working on another one of these concepts called Recover Your Mind. And I know it's all about mind. And what I do is the book's title is going to be Have You Lost Your Mind?
Oh, that's good.
And can I help you find it?
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
like it.
Clever.
So, but
Yeah.
what it is for is specifically on COVID. I do a lot of consulting with executives and businesses, and I found that there's been a shift mentally in this nation, and it has to do with the environment. It has to do with the stress environment. It has to do with all the things that we are suffering today, as far as the culture is concerned, because there's tremendous distress in the culture,
Right.
and it's affecting the way guys think. It's affecting creativity. It's affecting businesses. So this whole book. And I've got I want to show you the manuscript in the car, but this whole book deals from a different perspective to this one. This one's more for, I would say, people that are more like military and so forth, with the other one's for businesses, people who are developing businesses, and even people that are developing relationships. You know, I've found for me, sometimes you get to meet people and they're going to get married, and you look at them and think, don't do that. You guys are screwed up. You better not get married. You're going to kill each other.
Right. Right.
So it's kind of funny. So I have to tell this story. So another story.
I love it.
So I was in Tucson, Arizona about a month ago. I consulted a big company out there on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the Friday, I managed to complete the whole process of all the consulting. So the CEO of the company said, look, we've put you in this beautiful resort. Take tomorrow, relax, have fun, and Sunday we'll get together, we'll go out and we'll do something. So this place in Tucson, this resort, is right next to the mountain. And there's this waterfall coming down, this freezing cold water. So I went and sat in the waterfall. Now, when I was in the military and I was in special forces, I was a diver. I trained in freezing cold water for hypothermia.
Wow. Yeah.
And I sat there. It was such a phenomenal experience. I mean, I was freezing cold. I was blue. And then I walked across from there to the hot water pool, and there was this couple standing, a guy and this girl standing facing us, holding hands like this. And I walked past them and I said, "You may kiss the bride." And the guy said, "Are you a prophet?" I said, "Yes, for now I am."
No.
He said, "How did you know?" I said, "Dude, it's all over you."
Yeah.
So he said, "Well, we just got married an hour ago."
Oh, wow.
And so I stood there with this man. We were talking in that pool 4 hours.
4 hours. Wow.
And
In the hot pool?
in the hot pool. And the beautiful thing is, he's a surgeon that deals with cancer. And so when I started to talk about Mindshift to him, and I started to go through the process, I mean, he broke and started crying. He said, "You know, I see death so much." He said, "I can't even cope anymore." He said, "I'm just so dead.
Yeah.
I can't respond to people anymore."
Wow.
And so I sat and I talked to him through this process, and we stood there and we really had a deep conversation. And so since then till now, I've been actually working with him on a weekly basis with Mindshift, helping him disconnect
Yeah.
that feeling
unpack
of
it and-
emotional distress.
Yeah.
Because you see, with all due respect, a lot of doctors have a God complex.
Mm-hmm.
They can fix it. But when somebody's dying and you can't fix it,
Right. Right.
it leaves you in a place of feeling totally vulnerable. And so we had this great discussion. It was just the most, and his wife was a nurse and she worked in the practice with him. And it was just a wonderful thing. We just stood there and it was so wonderful because the conversation flowed. And he was, for the 4 hours, he was changed.
Wow.
When he walked out, he just grabbed me and hugged me. Now this guy's Greek. Big guy, like a Zorba. He just hugged me. He said, "I'm so glad I met you." And I thought, wow, okay, dude. Chill now. I'm not homophobic, you know. So, but it was so wonderful seeing this in motion.
Right. Right.
Because it's something that you can begin a discussion with people, you can bring them to a point and let them think about things, and then suddenly it hits home.
Mm-hmm. Right.
See, we didn't understand. We have such a profound responsibility to take care of each other, to make sure that the thing is, even if you go to biblical standards, the Bible says, love thy neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I don't see much love in this nation. I see people are at each other's throat all the time.
Right.
And to me, the thing is, the way you're going to transform a person is to show them some love, show them some grace, show them some mercy, and help them. Because the bottom line is, that's what we're here for. We're here to help people. So that's really why I've created this, is because I love to help people.
I love it.
I love it. So,
Good stuff.
okay.
Where can we find this book? That's what I want to know.
Tell us where to go, or tell our people where to go.
I've got it. It's on Amazon.com. I've got the book. I can show you. What it looks
hold
like.
it up.
See it. There it is. There. It's green and
Mindshift, Ron
Mindshift,
Campbell.
Ron Campbell. Yeah. And
Amazon.com.
yeah, and that picture there is my face.
Oh, very cool.
That's awesome. What's your website, Ron? Where do we send them?
It's mindshiftSystem.com. www.mindshiftSystem.com.
So awesome. Because I know you have lots of stories, and we could be here for a while. I have a feeling we'd be here for a long time with these, because he's got a lot to do. We'll have to have you back on so we can unpack some more. You can maybe come back on when you get the next program out. We'll talk about the next one.
I love that. Yeah,
We'll do all that.
Thank you so
Good
much
stuff.
for having me.
I feel like real quick before we get him up, let's ask him a couple fun questions.
Okay.
We're going to get unserious. Let's do some unserious real quick, because these are my favorite, is to ask the fun questions. Okay, so I'm trying to think, because you've been like all over the place traveling, I'm sure. Okay, so let's take out all the stuff. We're going to find the best. Where is somewhere that you've traveled that you've absolutely loved?
Switzerland.
Oh, yes.
Switzerland.
I've never been there.
That's amazing.
We need to set you up, girl.
Awesome. Have you been to Switzerland?
God,
I went
love
2 summers ago.
Oh, she's traveled.
Before the pandemic
So
with
fun.
my teenager.
How fun.
love Switzerland. I've been to Switzerland.
Have you been to Abelboden?
Yes.
Isn't it magical?
It's beautiful. Yes. My favorite place in Switzerland is a place called Schinsnachbad, which is a spa bath kind of thing that comes out. It boils out the ground. And it's freezing cold with snow, and you go in there, it's like, oh, God, it's so good. It's awesome. And I mean, I love going up into the Alps.
Yeah.
I love being on my own in places, and that's one of the places where I can be totally on my own. I don't need him with me. I just can be on my own.
Do your thing.
And I can just live.
I can't wait to get back to Switzerland.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it's so stunning.
And you know what really was surprising for me?
Huh.
Is if you go in a restaurant in America, it's a cacophony.
Yeah.
In Switzerland, you have a full restaurant. You can't hear a beep.
Huh.
The people are talking like this.
They whisper.
They're on
so
wow,
softly.
wow, wow. They're on loud. It's like, wow.
Yeah, we were just in a. Where were we? We were somewhere. Well, we were on Friday when we were talking. We were talking about that. Remember, we were trying to have a conversation.
Yeah,
it was
it's so
so
loud.
like
It was so
loud
loud.
in there.
Yeah.
We're like, we feel like we're on a megaphone yelling.
Yeah, it's
like,
terrible. It's like, that creates PTSD for me. If I'm in a restaurant and people start doing that, I'm
oh well, I don't even have that
Yeah.
PTSD, but I don't like loud noises
Yeah.
either. I get stressed out when it's like too loud.
And then my other favorite place is Israel.
Israel.
There's something about Israel that my mom was a Jew, and so I served in Israeli military, and I lived the streets, and I loved the streets and the sounds and the smells and the food and the people. I love the people. Yeah.
It's awesome.
So what's your favorite cuisine?
French. Vive la France.
Mm.
Quite de vin, some nice wine, and some nice food.
Awesome stuff.
There we go.
Another story. So
This is so great.
So when I was in Israeli military, I went into France, and we operated as civilian contractors in a business in France as Frenchmen to go to Iran to do contract. I won't say where, but anyway. And so I was there for 6 months training, and I was so lonely. And I said to my buddy, I said, well, where can I meet some nice chicks, girls? He said, nah, it's bars. I said, no, man, I'm not bars. So what I did is I went and I found a cordon bleu chef school. And I went and signed up, and I did cordon bleu cooking. And I met the most beautiful people, women.
Yeah.
I mean, just the most amazing people. So for any of you out there that want to date, not the gym,
Not the
not
bars.
the bar,
Cooking school.
Cooking school.
Go to cooking school. Learn how to cook. This is so great.
That's a silly story, but no, see, it was the most fantastic thing that ever happened to me. I met the most wonderful person, and then there's an extension of this, and then I met a girl. Her name was Renee. Renee was a ballroom dancer.
Okay.
And she took me, and she was almost 20, 30 years older than me. But man, this girl could move. And she took me ballroom dancing. So I got such a love for ballroom dancing. I just enjoyed it. We have wine, we have food, and we have dancing. I mean, that's life.
Yeah.
Huh? C'est la vie.
I love it.
Let's go.
I love it, Ron. Good stuff.
I do too.
Hey, thanks for all these stories. It's been awesome. As I said, we could probably be here for a while because I think he has a lot of fun stories. Well, I don't know if fun, but I say a lot of stories to share with us. But definitely, we do want to say to our listeners, go check out this Mindshift. It's Mindshift.
Yeah, system.com.
System.com. Go check it out. We'll make sure too, Ron, when this goes out, that we have everything tagged together.
And thank you for having me. I've really been looking forward to this show since
I know. We met like
May
of last year.
Yeah.
It's been a while because you had surgery and stuff, and so we kept talking about getting him on here so he could talk about this. But it's been so we're glad you got on here.
Thank you so much, and I'd love to come back if you want to have me.
We'd love to have you
more
back.
stories for
I
us.
will bring stories.
Bring more stories.
I will bring food, and I will be
that would be good too. We would have fun.
We do get hungry.
Yeah, we do. We do.
I'll do it.
This has been awesome,
I
Ron.
will do it.
It's awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, we do want to say to our
Bless you
listeners,
guys.
of course, if you enjoy our podcast, please be sure to give us a rating both on iTunes and Facebook because we can't do this without you. And hit that subscribe button on YouTube.
And head over to startergirls.com, grab your free gift. And as a reminder, we've partnered with foundationforchoice.org, and they are supporting young students and high school students to help them get to college and help them graduate. So if you'll head over to foundationforchoice.org, check out everything that they're doing and see how you can get involved in supporting their program. We would highly recommend that because they're doing amazing things. So
Good stuff. Okay, I got a couple final thoughts, but I want to see if y'all can figure this one out. Who said this? I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed.
Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Bam. Good stuff. All right, and what we say to you guys, in order to have success, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, and be kind to one another. We will see you next time.